Hi guys, it is Steph. I'm continuing my series on Gino Wickman's traction. And this week we're going to dive into using KPIs in your business for leading in real time instead of leading reactively. So for those of you who are new to this term, KPIs are key performance indicators. And all that means is like taking the baseline health of your business. And the analogy that I always use with everyone is it's exactly like when you go to the doctor. What do? They weigh you, they look up your nose, they look in your ear, they shine the light down your throat, they listen to your lungs, they listen to your heart, they take your temperature, and they take your blood pressure. And that handful of metrics gives them a baseline understanding of whether they're dealing with essentially a healthy person, and then they can investigate further, or whether something sounds or looks really off and it requires specific further investigation. And they do the same thing with everybody, every single appointment with great consistency, right? So it's the same thing with your business. Think about if you want to really understand the baseline health of your business, what are the handful of things that you are going to measure that can give you some insight into how your business is performing? And I'm going to share my screen here really quickly. And I'm just going to give you some ideas. Now, as always, please modify any advice to best suit your needs and your variables, but at least this will kind of give you an idea of how to get started for yourself. This is probably better suited maybe for the trades or project-based work, but it could easily be modified for a service-based business. So in this particular instance, I helped a client come up with a set of KPIs that they wanted to look at every week, just so that they had a grip on how their business was growing and responding to some changes that they had made. And then there were things that they wanted to look at monthly that were kind of more in the bigger picture. So weekly was a little more granular, and monthly was the broader strategic view of the numbers. So on a weekly basis, they wanted to get an idea of, how many jobs were they scheduling each day? And then they set a goal for themselves. So when they reviewed it every week, they had a point of comparison, because it's all well and good to measure something, but you're measuring it against what criteria? You need something to compare it to so you can judge the performance more accurately. So what they were tracking was the number of jobs they had scheduled each day. They wanted to schedule 10 jobs a day, Monday through Friday. And then, of course, whatever they wind up with is going to be either on point with that or over and under, and then they can get curious accordingly. If your business is performing even better than the goals that you had set for it, well, what is making that possible? And can we do more of that on purpose, right? And if it's underperforming relative to the goals that you set, what might be influencing that, and what do you have control over so you can take action? They wanted to have a certain percentage of jobs completed each day, making allowance for jobs that were maybe a little more complex and were going to take more than one day to do. They divided it into two different types of work that they did. And with more complexity, they just could handle 3 of those a week, and simpler jobs they could do, or yes, 3 a week, 7 a week, of certain types of work that they were launching. Number of cancellations over the week, just 1. If they started getting an excessive number of cancellations, then it made them question about their onboarding process, how well they were explaining the job and setting the expectations and following up with the customer. So you can get a sense here, and I'll use the number of cancellations as an example, that when you measure certain things, you're not just measuring the number of cancellations, you're also getting insight into how well you are communicating with your customer, and maybe how much they value what it is that you have to offer, because they're choosing to keep their appointments. So that's the kind of insight that you're looking for. We're not just looking for static numbers for the sake of knowing just the numbers. It's what story are the numbers telling us? And number of check-in calls. If they're doing, this is a mistype here. This should be daily, and I'll change that right now. If they're doing 10 jobs a day, then they should be making 10 calls every day for the previous day's work, just to check in with customers and make sure that they had a good experience. So they, as a group, the owner of the company and his two managers, look at these numbers every week just to see what jumps out at them and any actions that they need to take. Every month, they're tracking the number of new clients that they picked up over the course of the month, their revenue by job type. They're looking at their source report, and they're in the process of setting goals. What is the return on investment expectation for each one of their marketing efforts? They're setting a goal for their COGS percentage, their labor percentage, and where they want to be with net profit at the end of every month. So some of this is still very much in the works, and some of it I've changed also just to protect people's privacy. I've made this a little more vague. But you can get a sense of, every week you're just looking at 6 of these things. Every month you're looking at 6 of these things. But the amount of information that reveals to you about how effectively your employees are conducting their work, your client experience that you're providing, whether you are bidding work appropriately because you've got a certain number of jobs coming in and you're looking at that relative to your net profit. So you can begin to see that all of these little data points, collecting this information in and of itself is not that complicated, but the picture that it can reveal, if you take the time to look at it, is actually quite complex and very illuminating. So I just wanted to give you kind of a down and dirty overview of what another client is taking a look at, what they are choosing to measure, and the kinds of information that might be revealing for their data set, to give you an idea of how you could create something like this for yourself. So I have done many videos over the years about knowing your numbers in different ways, but the point that I always come back to is that good information, accurate information, the numbers don't lie. And really good numbers should be telling you a story about the performance of your business, so that in real time, you can make choices to capitalize on opportunities or course correct when something is going wrong, rather than looking back at a 6-month or a 12-month year-end review and going, I wonder what was going on that month, and not knowing. So it's important when you own a business to know what the heck's going on with it. And that sounds so simple and so obvious, but sometimes in the face of all of our other responsibilities and all the other choices that we have to make during the week and during the month, that kind of gets set aside because it's important, but it doesn't feel urgent. So I really encourage you to carve out a little bit of time on your calendar every week, and at the end of the month, or maybe the beginning of the next month, once all your data is in, and take a look at how your company is performing and any changes or actions that you need to make because the numbers have given you a good story. So I hope that's helpful. And I'm going to take just a little bit of time off while I go on vacation, but I will be back soon with more information on Gino Wickman's Traction. In the interim, I very much encourage you to buy the book or check it out at the library, make some notes for yourself, and we'll come back to some new topics in July. So enjoy your June, and I will see you soon.